Hey everybody, and welcome to the DLF Trade Show and the DLF YouTube channel. It's finals week. It's now or never, and we're not even talking about that. That's how confident we are that you've been watching and listening to us this entire 2.5 years. I mean, not just this season.
Basically.
But like you're so good at this that we don't even need to talk about stuff that's going on this week. Plus, this comes out on Thursday. That's a little bit of a time crunch just to put that, out there. But it's really funny. So this is one of the very, very, very rare times where we kind of have our schedule set for us. We have the few things we normally talk about: the future first, the 2 year in the future first, and then we go targets for rebuilding teams, targets for teams that are still staying in contention for next season. And Addison asked me, like, he says, all right, well, our next two shows are these. What are some players you have? And I start typing out names, and I'm just like, there's a lot of overlap in this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's great for fantasy. That just means there's a lot of very good young talent, and that's where we want to be, right? So let's talk about Anthony Richardson. While I still believe in Bryce Young is very good. CJ Stroud, also very good. I have a little bit of both of them. But Richardson he was that home run swing. And he still is. Absolutely. So when you tell me, if I'm a team that got kicked out of the playoffs, even if it was this week, last week, and I'm like, you know what? My team is old. It's time to pull it back a little bit. It's time to say, maybe I don't need to break it all down. I still want to score points next year, but I definitely need to get back towards a median age of under 27. I mean, like, I have a couple of teams that are just sort of dead in the water after the season. So if you're telling me I just lost in the playoffs and I can trade Dak Prescott and Courtland Sutton and get Anthony Richardson, I feel great about that. Because, look, I don't think, Dak will be 31 next year. Age is of zero concern for Dak Prescott. He is not retiring anytime soon. But you're buying about 9-10 years in age. And while Dak is great, I don't think he has the ceiling Richardson will have because of his legs.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Richardson needs to do a decent amount in the passing game to be able to catch up with what Dak is doing in the passing game. But if you are pulling back, and like, this is even like a decent, like, full-on rebuild move, because you're still going crazy young, and how do you rebuild in superflex leagues around young quarterbacks? And if I'm in the playoffs, I would send Anthony Richardson to go get Dak Prescott to try and score points this week easily.
I believe this trade to me is just so perfect, but I just really want to go out and get Anthony Richardson. I feel like if this was a move, even if you are playing for this week, and you had another QB3 and you didn't necessarily need Dak, so to speak, this is a move that I might be willing to move and do something for next year.
That scares me. That scares me a lot.
Your QB3 has to be
that.
a very specific, like, I'm not saying your QB3 is like, Bailey Zappi or somebody like that, but like, if your
QB3 was Jared Goff, maybe you go
exactly.
for it.
Yeah,
you still
exactly.
have like Tua and Goff, and like maybe you roll with that and see how it goes.
Yep. And then, you go into next year with Anthony Richardson. I just love, because I think that as soon as Anthony Richardson gets back onto the field, he's going to be immediately placed back into like the top 7 or 8, which I think for people he already is kind of there. But his value has dipped slightly to where he's still a QB1, but he's not, because he's not playing, he's not up to where I think he should be or would be if you were playing this entire year.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it is absolutely out of sight, out of mind. Anthony Richardson on December DLF Superflex ADP, which I didn't know until very late last night, was actually posted. So go check that out if you want. He fell to QB 12, 18th overall. Allen, Hurts, and Mahomes are still top 3. Stroud is number 4, which,
yeah,
I get it, but that's a little bold for me. Lamar, Herbert, Burrow, Tua, Kyler, Dak, T-Law, Richardson. And then you hit that Fields, Purdy, Love. I mean, the Howell experiment might be over. But like, to me, this is almost a 2024 opening day season floor for Anthony Richardson,
Absolutely.
short of adding Caleb and maybe Drake May in there. Let's talk about the next one, because this one is very, very interesting. Anthony Richardson for 2 late 24 firsts. Richardson still at 595. The late firsts are 219.4 each, so a total of 439. I would do this for Anthony Richardson very easily. Like, there's a chance that there's going to be some quarterbacks at the back end of the rookie drafts this coming season, but it's Anthony Richardson. Like a dude that was just taken at the 102 in a decent amount of rookie drafts. A dude that we've seen do well on the field, again, for fantasy at least. Addison just looked it up, and if you're telling me one of them is the 111 or 112, that just solidifies that I'm absolutely willing to do it. And the other one was a playoff, you said, right?
The other one is playing for third place. So one of them is 109, 110, and the other is 111, 112.
2 picks between the 109 and 110 or the 111 and 112. Like, that is
perfect. That's and
that is
this is one of those trades where, because we get those questions during the offseason and stuff where it's like, hey, I'm a rebuilder. I've been collecting all these picks. I have 4 firsts, 3 seconds, and another couple firsts in 2025 or whatever. What do I do with all these picks as a rebuilder? Are you drafting all of these? Are you trading them all away? Are you doing some sort of mix of both? And generally the answer is some sort of mix of both, especially if you're able to take advantage of players that have fallen in value and take advantage of a little bit of rookie fever as well too. And you can get better, more secure assets for those first instead of just throwing dart throws, especially when you get later on in the first and then into the second round as well too. If you're one of those teams and you've been stockpiling firsts and you have a couple of late firsts like this and you're able to turn 2 of them into just one Anthony Richardson, I mean, that is one of the ways that you speed up your rebuild by basically almost an entire year, almost it could be, because you're getting the points of Anthony Richardson. And if other assets in your team start producing, then boom, there you go. But also, Anthony Richardson in and of itself is a really good asset to have if your rebuild were to be extended another year or anything like that. Like you have no issue taking Richardson in 2025, 2026. He is an asset and a cornerstone piece to build around.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be betting on him way more than I would be betting on hitting on both of those first round picks.
Now let's move on to a player that is near and dear to the hearts of Addison and myself. Three names, 3 letters. Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, Mr. JSN. Or maybe I should have said JSN, Mr. Jaxon Smith-Njigba. But whatever, you got the point. My brain's gone. All right, so we're starting to see it. We're starting to see Jaxon Smith-Njigba getting involved in that offense. Mm-hmm. We're starting to see that he's that good. He is good. Mm-hmm. And in a 12-team Superflex league, wow. JSN and a late first for Deebo Samuel. Caution, Team A is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, 447, the late first, 219 for a total of 667. Deebo, 298. And I get it. You have to overpay to get those points for the championship week, or for the playoffs in general. But what world is JSN not enough?
I mean, this trade to me is absolutely insane. I mean, I feel like you could take advantage of somebody being really desperate as a contender and wanting to get the Deebo Samuel points, and you get some sort of a plus with JSN. It could be a third. It could be a late second. A late first, though, absolutely
crazy.
Absolutely wild that this was able to get done.
Yeah, and also, like, even just the last couple of games, JSN, 11, 7, 4, and 7 targets. And of course, the game where he only got 4 targets was the game he scored the touchdown. So it really helped his scores out. But as of week 16, 59 catches and 600 yards. Like, I mean, he has what we would consider a good rookie season. Will he ascend to be that high-end wide receiver asset? We hope he will, maybe. But we've already, like, I feel like we've seen that he's safe already, just not, maybe, he hasn't shown the eliteness yet. But at the cost of only Deebo Samuel and getting JSN in a late first, that's very easy for me. Next trade, JSN, straight up, Devon Achane. If this was before last game, I would feel a lot better about the Devon Achane side. but Achan had like 7 rushes for 30 something yards and like 1 catch. And that worries me now. You're not guaranteed the points. Like there's a very strong chance they score the same amount of points next week. And they're both 21. Well, JSN is actually younger. He's 21, Achan 22. JSN 447.3, Achan 531.1 for all intents and purposes. I mean, that's kind of close enough. It's the difference of like a mid late second, which I guess isn't nothing, but yeah. I mean, I want JSN here just be actually no. You know what? If here's the thing. If Achan bounces back, if Achan has in the next 2 games, if he totals, has over 200 total yards and at least 1 touchdown, I still think he comes into next season as a top 5 dynasty running back.
My thing with Achan is what is the incentive for Miami to just not roll with Raheem Mostert again next year? I mean, Mostert has been absolutely incredible, still under contract next year. Achan, and if he continues to have these persistent injuries, or if they're trying to be more cautious with him and not give him as much run and be, so that he doesn't get injured, so they have him for longer and healthier, then why not just continue with the game plan of giving Raheem Mostert a majority of the carries and the majority of the snaps? That's why, like, I still think that I wouldn't put Achan as a top 5 running back. I think he's got to be more as a back end RB1 just because he's 22 and has the phenomenal upside and the lack of amazingness at running back right now. But I would still, I mean, if you apply the context of a rebuilding team to this, I still want Jaxon Smith-Njigba because I believe that he can still grow into a player that could be a solid contributing asset for you and potentially still be a difference maker for you at the wide receiver position if the Seahawks address the quarterback position and he clearly bumps over Tyler Lockett, not just as like in the mix with Tyler Lockett.
And Seattle at 21 right now. I mean, they're not going to grab anyone that's a definite week 1 starter anyway. Even if like they grab like a Penix, like they try to move up to grab Penix in the early second or something. Like they're not going to be like he's absolutely starting next season. Like
Gina's been rough.
So here's my thing. Again, let's pretend Achan maybe does hit those things I said before, like the over 200 altogether total yards and at least 1 touchdown. Comes in at like RB 5 to 7. Like doesn't kill it, does well enough. When next season rolls around, do you think you can get JSN plus for the RB7 who happens to be 22 years old? Like right before the season starts. That's where I'm stuck. I think you would be able to. And of course, I'm not talking like a first on top, but like if you're telling me I can get Achan now, and then again, not exactly, but if you can get JSN value in a second, it's worth it because I think they both have the same floor right now of value for the next couple of months, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I think things can happen in the next 2 weeks that will make Achan spike. I don't think anything's going to change for JSN.
That's fair.
That's where I'm stuck on it because I'm me. I love JSN and I choose wide receivers over running backs. It's just this specific running back and these 2 specific players. I think Achan has an ability to make his value spike a bit. So let's make ourselves sad for a little bit and talk about TJ Hockenson. Okay, I'm done being sad. So, yeah, TJ Hockenson tore his ACL and MCL. He is going to, by all accounts, miss some time at the beginning of next season. I am done arguing that people don't heal fast enough. Like, there was no way Brock Purdy was going to be ready for the start of the season. There was no way Javonte Williams was going to be ready for the beginning of the season, and they both were. So, like, TJ Hockenson can, like, wake up from his anesthetic stupor and just be like, I'm going to play week 1. And I'll be like, okay, I believe you. Yep, okay. But as of now, he's set to probably start the season on the PUP, which means missing 6 games. But he's also a 26-year-old stud tight end, which I don't think dings his value at all. What's rough is if you have him on your team that's in the championship, but again, not what we're really talking about. This first trade, 12-team Superflex, let's pretend you just got kicked out of the playoffs, but the person who is in the finals has Hockenson on the roster. Travis Kelce straight up for TJ Hockenson. I need to be honest. I was offered this. Of course, it was the day that the ACL tear was announced, and I rejected the straight Kelce for my Hockenson. I might get desperate as the time goes on and we get closer to the weekend. But as of right now, I'm keeping Hockenson. They're 416.5 and 430 in the analyzer. They're right next to each other. They're insanely even. There's 8 years difference between the two of them. Kelce's still technically the points per game tight end one. And after this week will most likely be the total points tight end one, because the total points tight end one is TJ Hockenson, who is not playing. And on a rebuilding team, if I can send Kelce and get Hockenson, that is an absolute win.
Yeah. I mean, this is a move where you're getting that player that is continuing to descend no matter what. I mean, Travis Kelce has been on the descent for like 3 years now, because every single offseason he is going to retire and just has not yet.
The tight end one every single season.
That's all he's done. And TJ Hockenson still has been on the upswing ever since going to Minnesota. And
sure.
I mean, the injury is definitely a bump in the road. But with him being 26, turning 27 next year, he's going to return from the ACL next season, just like Kyler Murray did this year. Like, this isn't really going to affect anything for his long-term value for the next 3 or 4 years, outside of just small. You're not going to have him for half the year next year. I honestly do think that there is a realistic possibility that Travis Kelce actually does retire this offseason. I think he's complained about the injuries and stuff, and the Chiefs just aren't still they aren't the firepower superpower team that they were a few years ago. So I actually could see Travis Kelce legitimately retiring, in which case then this would just be so easily TJ Hockenson.
No.
But even if he doesn't, I mean, even if both these guys end up playing next year, I still want TJ Hockenson for Dynasty. He's a much better player to have on a rebuilding team going into the 2024 offseason than Travis.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the context we're talking. December Superflex ADP. Sam Laporta, tight ends one, by the way. And on a 2-round lead over TJ Hockenson, who is the tight end too. ADP of 36, then Hockenson has an ADP of 58. Like there's okay, almost 2 rounds. Leave me alone. And then Travis Kelce, tight end 5 at pick 60, 68. Like Kelce's already taking that hit for being old and not crushing it like he normally does. And that's not going to change once the non-point scoring season hits. It's only going to go lower.
Worse.
Especially because we're going to place Brock Bowers above him.
Yep.
And like we're going to see, all right, well, Evan Engram's going to end up as a top 3 scoring tight ends. Maybe he gets that bump a little bit because he's still like 5-6 years younger than Kelce anyway. So I think there's a chance that Kelce does fall value-wise. Don't get me wrong, if he's playing, I want him on my competing teams, but that's not what we're here to talk about. If you're telling me I can go get Hockenson for Kelce on a team that isn't playing for anything right now, I do that very easily, if nothing for the fact that you'll be able to trade him for more, even though you want studs on your rebuilding team because you want to eventually compete, and Hockenson is that positional advantage. So this next one is another. We had 4 TJ Hockenson trades this week, all before the injury.
Wow.
Yeah. At least he helped you this week. That's all I could really say. So this trade, by the way, I can say this because I know it's a 1.75 premium, so it's a 0.75 extra for tight ends. The trade, this happened before this past week's games. TJ Hockenson for Davante Adams, Russell Wilson, and Raheem Mostert. Now, of course, Davante Adams put up 1.4 points, and Russell Wilson just got benched. But it doesn't matter because Rocky lost anyway. So didn't really help anyone. So TJ Hockenson in here at 521.5, Davante Adams 322, Russell Wilson 218, Raheem Mostert 59 for a total of 599. So again, you're overpaying a little bit for the better asset. I mean, I think I would want a little more analyzer overpayment for Hockenson. But again, we have to pretend we don't know that Davante Adams sucked, Russell Wilson just got benched, and Raheem Mostert is still good. But also Raheem Mostert most likely, I mean, he's a 31-year-old running back. you need him on your team to score points. He's not going to have dynasty value at all.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this on the show last night, and I'm going to say the same thing. I feel like value-wise, it's fine. And if you are a team in the situation where you could have traded, again, healthy at the time, Hockenson away, and still been good at tight ends, which he had Kittle, well, has Kittle, and you were able to shore up 3 spots on your roster, you get a solid QB2 who should have been a wide receiver 1, and so most likely running back 1, or maybe at least a high end 2. Like, I feel like this is a fine trade. You're going to hate it once the season ends. But all of that saying, since we're talking from a rebuilding standpoint, if I'm not in the playoffs, I so easily send these 3 to go get TJ Hockenson.
Very easily. Honestly, like you say, the argument for the other side is if you're still in the playoffs and playing for this week. I don't know how much all 3 of those guys help you for one specific week. If you already made it to the championship, I don't know what Devontae Adams is going to do substantially better than any of the wide receivers that you already made to the championship.
Semis. We're talking this happened before last week. So
Even that, I mean, if we apply last week to it, if you apply, you made this trade, today because we talked about it on the trade show or anything like that. Like, to me, this is just compiling a whole bunch of age, smushing that all down into just one younger asset that nobody cares about right now because of the time of year and the fact that he tore his ACL.
Yeah, it's absolutely the smart dynasty move. But man, like if you're telling me that your QB2 was Sam Howell and you have Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase on your team and you find yourself with a couple of holes and you're panicking, I don't hate it.
Nah.
I didn't say I like it. I said I don't hate it.
Nah, it is what it is.
All right. Well, that's actually the end of our players to target on your rebuilding team. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at Amaze Hayes _ special guest at PA Howdy. Thanks, Peter, for stopping by. DLF Trade Show, DLF YouTube channel. I'm not pointing to anything now because their pictures are covering the title. But catch you next time.